I'm Dr. Yvonne Cason, the president of Spiritual Awakenings International. Welcome to Spiritual Awakenings International Presents. We are truly a global network and we keep on growing. We just picked up another country. We're now in 107 countries. We're delighted around the world. So please take a moment now and enter into the chat where it is you're joining us from today. I'm joining you from Toronto, Canada, and our speaker today is joining you from Florida and the great USA. And we have others joining us from Oregon and let me see, Gravenhurst, north of Toronto. Somebody just said they're going to lose power. Right. Anyway, wherever all of you are joining us from today, welcome the UK. Welcome. We have someone on the iPad from the UK. Well, it is my great pleasure to introduce our speaker today, who is Francisco Valentin. Francisco has had multiple spiritually transformative experiences, including a near-death experience, a death experience, out-of-body experiences, and many more. He was born in Puerto Rico, but currently lives in Florida in the great state of USA. His spiritual journey began in 1979 when he died in a car crash and later came back to life with a mission, but that was not revealed to him until 32 years later. I'm sure he's going to describe that to us. In 2011, Francisco became the interpreter of spiritual ascended masters known as the collective forces of knowledge and wisdom. He has now shared 500 messages of higher truths in what he calls the transcripts. Francisco shares the transcripts in English and in Spanish. So it's my great pleasure to turn it over to Francisco Valentin.
Thank you, Yvonne, for those lovely words and a great introduction. Appreciate that. As you already know, my name is Francisco Valentin. And today I'm going to share with you an experience that took place in 2013. And my purpose here is to answer the 3 questions everyone have asked to themselves at least once in their lifetime. Who am I? Where do I come from? And what is my life purpose? But the answer I'm going to give you will not come from what you and I might have read in books, search over the internet, learn from gurus and masters, or secular or religious scriptures. The answer that I'm going to bring to those 3 questions are going to come from within, which is what I'm going to explain today. But in order to do that, and for everything to make sense, I'll have to explain how everything started from the beginning. But I'm going to run very fast because our time is limited and there's a lot of details that you are going to get later on. But in the meantime, let's get into it. So buckle up because I'm going to take you on a spiritual journey inward to the very center of your soul, of your being, of your existence. So in order for me to help you remember what you never forgot, but it had been kept buried deep inside you for so long for lack of support. So buckle up and here we go. Let me start sharing the screen. Okay. So everything started one summer day in 1979 when at the young age of barely turning 18 and due to a car crash, I died. I was the driver of this car and I was right here. The details of the impact is something that I'm going to hold on because time is limited, but you're going to see much of it in the previous lectures. And if you go to my webpage, all the interviews that have been done to me. But very briefly, for out of your curiosity, what I'm going to do is I'm going to uh, share with you very briefly what took place. When I died, I went into the void, what people call the black void. I didn't see any tunnel or bridge or pathway or loved ones or anything like that. But I felt the presence and I was surrounded by spiritual beings around me. And later I found myself feeling the presence of the force of something magnificent. And next thing I remember is going through a funnel, getting narrower and narrower until my physical pain was so much that I had to take my first breath, open my eyes, and they were taking me out of the car. The accident took place around 4 p.m. and I wasn't removed from the car until around 6 o'clock. And when I tried to explain what happened to me, I was immediately shut down by family, friends, society, culture, religion, science, and even history. And you will see what I'm talking about. So that's when I decided, you know what, I'm going to keep it to myself and take it to the grave. And I started reading everything that I could get a hold of to learn what happened to me. But all my attempts were fruitless because I never found what truly happened to me on any books. So here's lesson number one. Do not believe everything that you read. And I kept on with my life. I raised beautiful children, married, perfect job, perfect life until one day. And the day was July 7, 2011, when a spirit of light manifested through my son's voice to remind me of an agreement that took place in 2000, in 1979 in return for my life. And as I began to receive that information, and after the Spirit of Light gave me my reminder, they answered all those questions that I couldn't get a straight answer from humanity. And before it left, it granted me what I learned to call higher truth. As higher truth manifested in me, that's when I began to recall, like a life review, that in 1979, I indeed died. That in the year 2000, I had an experience with my dying mother who had a near-death experience and came back for me to learn that there is divine intervention. That in the year 2002, I had a near-death experience myself to learn how perception works. But if you can see the trend, neither in 1979 nor in the year 2000 or 2002, I knew what was going on. In 1979, I believed the medical field who told me, oh, what you had was a neurological issue because of the impact. In the year 2000, the doctor said, well, what happened to your mother is something that usually happens once in a blue moon. In the year 2002, they couldn't find anything wrong with me, and I believed them. So I kept on with my life, and I didn't pay attention to that. Later on in 2010, a prophecy was given to me. Now, this one, I do want to give you details. The others, you're going to find on other interviews. But here in 2010, what happened to me was that, let me stop sharing so I can explain what happened in that event. I was, we recently moved to a new area, and my wife saw a local newspaper ad where someone was giving meditation classes. So, well, my wife wanted to do the meditations. Okay, so let's go and please my lovely wife. Because for as much as I tried to meditate throughout all my lifetime, I couldn't. I don't know why I couldn't meditate. So, okay, so let's go over there. So we went to this venue. The teacher did his speech, his lecture, and he was going to give us 15 minutes of meditation practices. So here I am uh, doing the meditation practice. After 15 minutes, he was going to sound that little thing that goes cling, and you're supposed to wake up or get out of meditating states. So here I am, the first day, here I go, trying to meditate. So here I go, waiting for that solemn moment of meditation. 15 minutes went by, cling, nothing happened. Okay. So we went home, and my wife the following week said, I love that. Let's do it again. Okay. So let's please my wife. So we went for the second time, same thing happened. He gave his little lecture, 15 minutes. Here I am trying to meditate, waiting for those 15 minutes to go by. Cling. Okay, we're done. But guess what? She loved it and she wanted to do it again. So, have you heard that the third is the charm? So here I am trying to meditate when suddenly 5 seconds, I didn't say 5 minutes, 5 seconds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, before that little thing went off, I went into a spiral. And when I touched bottom, an inner voice told me, from now on, you're not going to learn from outside sources. And moving forward, everything is going to be learned from within. Cling! I was furious because I spent all my life trying to meditate with no avail. And now you're giving me only 5 seconds to deliver a message and you don't give me time to ask questions? Because I wasn't meant to ask questions. So going back to the sharing screen, if you don't mind, here I go. What was prophesied in 2010 came to pass on July 7, 2011, when the Spirit of Light manifested through my son's voice to remind me of an agreement that took place and gave me higher truth. Now, let's go in full details to what happened in 2011. In 2011, I was spending a long time with my 20 years old at the time. He was going to college and he was visiting us on summer vacation. It was July 7, 2011. My wife was coincidentally out of town in a business trip. My youngest daughter was studying abroad in one of those student exchange programs. And here I am with my 20-year-old son, sharing time, having our dinner. And when the night was over, we call it the night, and I went to him and gave him the usual hug, love you, my son, see you tomorrow. And that's when my son said, wait, hold on that. I want you to listen to a piece of music that I love to do meditation with. I was very tired, but I felt compelled and I said, okay, let me go to the restroom and I'll come back. So in my return from the bathroom, I was barefooted. And this is why I'm telling you that I'm barefooted. Because as soon as I get close to the door frame, I already heard the music pretty loud. And at the door frame, I see my son facing the other wall, moving his head rhythmically, when suddenly he said, look, Dad, I can see orbs all over the place. How beautiful. Now, the reason why I'm saying that was barefooted was because there's no freaking way that he could hear my footsteps. The music was pretty loud already, and he was facing the wall. So I got curious, and I got to him, close to him, and noticed that he has his eyes closed. That's when I said, "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" And he goes, "How beautiful. I can see orbs all over the place, but we are one." I'm standing next to him. He's sitting down. And I thought he was making a prank on me. So I wanted to check him out. And I said, "What do you mean we're one?" To see if he stumbled in his words. And that's when his voice turned unemotional. And he said, "Because we're one." I still thought that he was giving a prank on me. So I asked, "So how did it all started?" To see if this time I shake him up, because it was such a weird question that he had to stumble, but he didn't. The emotional voice gave me an answer. But I wasn't satisfied with that answer, so I tried to ask the same question in a different way, and I still got the same answer. And I tried another way to ask the same question, and I got the same answer. And he was actually answering all those questions I couldn't get a straight answer from humanity. But it got to the point where I was formulating the question on my mind, and I was getting the answer simultaneously. And that bugged the heck out of me. And in frustration, I said, "But what am I doing here?" And that's when my son, or the spirit, stopped moving his head, stood up, turned to me, opened his eyes, and very energetically he said, "Don't you remember that you and I agreed for me to come down and for you to help me do my job?" Then closed his eyes, turned around, sat down, and began to move his head rhythmically. And I just surrendered. I just surrendered. A few more questions were asked. A few more answers were given. And when the spirit of light departed, I asked my son, "Do you remember what I just happened?" And he said, "Yes, I remember everything." Then I asked, "And do you remember when you stood up and you..." "No, I don't remember that." So imagine how much power that being or spirit of light had to have in order to take my son out of the picture, take a hold of his physical body, stand up, open his eyes, give me a message directly to me where my son wasn't allowed to know, and then close his eyes, turn around, and allowed my son to come back. The following day, I woke up with this urge, urge to write. I am not a writer. I am not a reader. I read only what I'm interested in, and that was all the metaphysical stuff that I learned, tried to learn from all those years. But I am not a writer. So as I had this urge, I opened my laptop, and when I began to type, I realized that I was transcribing verbatim, word by word, what transpired the night before the spirit of light and yours truly. Call it automatic writing because I do not have that ability. I don't have that mind retention or memory recall with so much precision as it did. And the following days, or evenings, I should say, I begin to wake up between 1 and 3 a.m., receiving information regarding our origin or the origin of life and our true purpose in such a way that it was very, very, very dense in structure, yet it was so simple for me to understand. It's like if you were giving a 5-year-old an algebraic equation, and the 5-year-old could understand it perfectly. And moving forward, every single night, I kept waking up in the middle of the night to transcribe what later I called, as the introduction said, the transcripts. It got to the point, I gotta clarify, that I could not keep waking up in the middle of the night because, first of all, I have a wife that will not be able to sleep if I wake up and turn on the light or turn on the computer or whatever, or start writing in a piece of paper. So I made an agreement, so a lot for them to allow me to record, which I did. I got out of the room and I did my recording, but then I start getting burned out because I couldn't sleep after that. So we made an arrangement so the information can come throughout the day. So just to give you an example, I could be watching TV with my lovely wife, an image or something happened on TV, and there we go. Take this as an example of this and this, and so I have to walk away, go to my room, start transcribing, and my wife is already used to that. So let's go back now to the screen as I share the screen. And I'm going to take you to 2012. In 2012, after a year and a half of having transcribed that information, first of all, I never had formal training in mediumship or channeling, and I didn't know any better. I was channeling like what we had agreed upon, when suddenly I feel a presence which distracted me. And I was distracted. And as I was distracted, I cut communication and got attention to that presence. As I did, I began to feel something that it was denser in a way that I did not feel comfortable with. And that's when I snap out of it and I didn't allow more communication with whatever it was. A week went by because the collective stopped communication with me. And when the communication started, again, that presence came forward and I got distracted and I went to it and I asked, "Who are you?" And the answer that I received is one that I will not share with you guys. But by the third time, let me share this with you because it's very important. By the third time, suddenly, out of nowhere, that presence struck me and it got a hold of me to the point that I almost committed suicide. I went into a world of deception, of lies, trying to get me off and get so disturbed that I didn't want to keep living. I did not. But uh, let's call it an angel, which was someone that I knew, came forward and persuaded me not to continue. It took me a whole year to get rid of that, what you might call the dark night of the soul. And even though every medium, every person that I tried to get help from told me that I could not do it by myself, that it was way too strong, I managed to do it. And I got rid of that, knowing now what I know today. So having gone through that experience, which took me about 6 months to get rid of it and another few months to recover. And by the way, I'm still healing, with the difference that I already know what that was, and I'm not allowing that to come forward again. Although once you open the door never closes. It's just a matter of keeping control until you have full control over it. So going back again, sharing the screen, let's go now to the year 2013. In the year 2013, after that experience, I was working in my front yard, mowing the grass, doing my weekend chores, when suddenly I hear a voice that said in Spanish, "Confía en mí," which translates to "trust me." When I look back, I didn't see anyone. But I thought that it was probably the neighbor, that I overheard him or something out of my imagination, so I kept doing my daily thing. The following week, I do the same. I'm working in the yard when suddenly the same voice, "Confía en mí, trust me." But this time, because I already heard that voice before, the moment it says "confía," I was looking already in the back, and there was no one. And I said, well, that's weird. Now, remember, I recently recovered from 2012. So I had to be very careful who I'm listening to. And the following week, again, the third is the charm. The following week, here I am doing my daily chores outside the house, when suddenly that voice, which by the way, it was always been a very tender voice, and said, "Confía en mí." But this time, I don't know, I still have no explanation, because I was supposed to be extremely careful because of my past experience. I said to myself, okay, I'm going to trust you. When suddenly I dropped everything, it was like if I was hypnotized. I dropped everything. I walked inside the house. I go towards my room. I remember very clearly when I opened the door and I saw my watch, my clock, it was 10 a.m. I lay down in bed when suddenly, upon closing my eyes, I see this. I saw a hand extended facing towards me. It was like, get a hold of my hands because I'm going to take you somewhere. Now, at this point, I wanna change gears. I wanna make a shift because I wanna make sure that you understand that what I'm about to say is not something that actually happened, but what the perceptive mind can captivate and translate into words for it to be explained. So this is what I'm going to do. This is how perception works. So let's say, for instance, that you already know, must know already, that the computer system has a language. It's called a binary language, which is comprised of zeros and one. Those zeros and ones translate into words or images. In this case, it's going to be through pixels. So that those zeros and one will translate into images that you can see. If you were to see those zeros and one, you will know nothing about what's going on. So you will not be able to understand. However, if they transmute into images, then you can have an understanding. Okay, make sense? Okay, let's move on. Now let's pretend that the spirit world communicates through a language that is comprised of zeros and ones that we don't understand. We do not understand. Most people can see it as or conceive it as the abstract, but they are intent. The intent is the language for the spirit world. And the intent translate into thoughts, and the thoughts then become actions. Okay? So imagine that this is you. And imagine that as you are here, someone in the spirit world wants to communicate with you. And let's assume that they want to bring you peace through their intent. The intent is to give you peace because you have an emotional day, something went wrong, and you need peace, and they are about to give you peace. Immediately, because the spirit world is the abstract, you're going to see this, or this, or this, or this, maybe this, or this. So let's practice. Right now, I cannot see the chat because I'm sharing this image, but I'm gonna get myself out of sharing mode because this is what we're gonna do. I want you to close your eyes when I tell you so, and I'm going to give you one word. I'm gonna repeat it 3 times, just in case you have some difficulty with my accent. But I want you to type in the chat the first thing that comes to mind. Don't overthink it. Just listen to those my words and immediately go to the chat and tell me what first comes to mind. So here we go. Close your eyes. And the word is serenity. 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 Open your eyes now. Don't overthink it. And put in the chat what's the first thing that comes to mind. Hurry up. Peace, peace, love, love, flower. What else? Flower, a beautiful, still
Pond.
pond. Okay. Gentle rain, forest, a dove, quiet mind, pure heart. Okay. You see my point? I gave you one word. The word have not changed. But look how many interpretations you have given to that word. That is precisely serenity, peace, bird floating above water. You guys are great. You guys are getting it. Okay. So let me share the screen once again. Okay. So that is why when someone had a near-death experience, some people see a doorway, others see a pathway, others see a tunnel, loved ones, an out-of-body experience, uh, God, Jesus, or whatever deity they believe in. Some see the paradise, and others, like me, see the void. You see? Now let's go back to that hand, because I want to make sure you understand that what I'm giving you is what they gave me through my perceptive mind for me to understand and for me to later be able to explain in words. Okay? So do not take this experience literally, but just through the perceptive mind. Okay? So here I am looking at this hand, knowing that the intention is for me to grab that hand because I'm about to be taken somewhere else. So here I am extending my hand, and I was taken immediately to the next realm closest to us. This is a depiction for you to have a little bit of clarity, but this is not the image that I saw. Okay? It's not even close, but I could not find an image that will help me represent what I saw. But I saw and I experienced seeing those beings that are closest to the earth plane, those who are known to communicate with the living. And that's when you see some mediums that they speak to the dead. Those who are attached to the earth plane, very attached to family, and they are roaming around very, very close to this physical plane. But at the same time, there are those who are more distant because they are detached. And even those that are even more detached from the earth plane, but still living within that realm. That experience reminded me of those words of as above, so below. Because here on this earth plane, you can see the one who is highly evolved, spiritually evolved, that will not kill not even a bug. But at the same time, you see in this very earth plane those who are so dense that they can do unimaginable things. And every one of us have known of those beings on earth, physical beings, people that all they do is harm. So as above, so below, in the spirit world, there's the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I can attest of that because of the experience that I had in 2012. Now I know from firsthand experience. Once I understood where I was, I want to remind you that I was taken through that realm like in a safety bubble. I was able to experience that, but I wasn't able to mingle. Neither was I able to be seen. It's like, for example, right now, you might be listening to me in front of the computer, and a spiritual being can pass in front of you and you will not even notice, but it did. So once I understood through my mind, and I want to clarify that it was not a telepathic communication. I was just remembering, because once I had that experience, I could understand everything that was going on because I just remembered. Once I understood that, the spirit of light that was taking me there took me through the next level. Now, I'm presenting you this image because that's not what happened, but it is like if I was in a realm of denser air and suddenly I go towards this veil and go to the next realm where I can see a difference in the environment. It is like thin air, denser air, or being in air and going through water. Whatever analogy you just want to put, but that's how it felt. There was a division between one realm and the other. And when I was taken to that other realm, here I am before what I might call geometrical figures. This is what later I learned that is what people call the Akashic Records, the book of whatever, the library, the book of knowledge, whatever name you want to put, but it was not given any name. Neither the previous round was given any name. It was just knowledge, information. Now, this image is the closest one that I could find. Here you can see all boxes, but they were like people say, sacred geometry. Then again, it was a perceptive way to let me know through what I understood before that could have been because of my readings, what that was. However, through that experience and while I was seeing those geometrical figures, I knew, and here let me stop because I want to make sure that you can see me as I explain this. I could see that geometrical figure, and I knew that if I could get a hold of that figure, I will get some knowledge. But also, I knew that if I wanted to grab that other image or geometrical figure, I couldn't. Because in order for me to grasp that knowledge, I needed to have previous knowledge. So not because everything is available for you, that means that you are capable of getting all that information. And once I understood that, let me go back to share screen. Once I understood that, that spiritual being took me to another level, which I felt once again as I kept moving forward, or I might add, inward. I felt the sensation of going into another realm. And in that other realm, here I am before sparks of light. Everything that was my surrounding were sparks of light. And I understood immediately that there was that each light was individuality. It was life in its purest form. And at that point, that who was taking me through those realms separated from me, stepped aside, and set me free right here. And that's when I moved forward on my own. I wasn't taken, but I moved forward on my own. And I found myself before this huge, it looked like a wall. It was a veil, like transitioning into the next realm. And as I got close to that realm, I felt this immense love, so intense that I wanted to be there in perpetuity. But I also knew that I had the free will to move forward through that other realm. And I knew that if I did, I was going to be part of the whole. And as I knew that, I wasn't ready for that because I knew that I was going to lose my individuality. I knew that if I were to merge, I will be one with it, one within, and I would become everything. And by becoming everything, I would become nothing. But I wasn't ready for that. I just wanted to stay as close to this realm without the merging. And I wanted to stay there in perpetuity. But at the same time, I knew that I couldn't. And that's when I looked to the side. And when I looked to the side, I looked at that spirit, soul, whatever it was. It did not have figure. It did not have, I just knew that it was a presence. And that spirit of light made me look back. And and as I look back, again, this image is only for you, but it was totally pitch black. Totally pitch black. And when I looked towards my back, and I saw how far I have gone, it was so far that I could not identify myself with it. That far I was. And I knew how far we still have yet to go, because we had separated for so long and so far away that we will have to take all this to go to where the merging takes place. And immediately upon realizing that knowledge, I look back at the spirit of light and I did the gesture like, okay, I got it, I'm ready. And as soon as that happened, boom, I go back to my bed. I open my eyes, look at the clock. I wasn't drowsy, I wasn't drowsy, I wasn't sleepy, I wasn't anything. I just opened my eyes, and when I look at the clock, 10 minutes went by. To me, it felt like hours, but just 10 minutes went by. And that's when I remember, sharing again, that's when I remember the words that I give on all the lectures and all the interviews that I give. The collective forces of knowledge and wisdom give me this these words for me to share, which I'm going to share once again. And that's how I understand. I understand it perfectly what those words meant. If we ever come to understand that we are one infinite mind, ever expanding through the spiritual and physical realm, limitless, then we will understand that the physical world is only an illusion. Now, let me clarify. If we ever come to understand that we're one infinite mind, does not mean that I am one infinite mind and you are one infinite mind and that other person is an infinite mind. No, it means that we are one infinite mind, ever expanding through the spiritual and physical realm, limitless. Why limitless? Because we have free will. So let's go back again. Now I understood exactly what those words means. We are one infinite mind. That is one infinite mind. We got separated. We created our individuality. We acquired knowledge. Does that sound familiar, Adam and Eve? Beautiful story. Too bad that people take it literally. And here we are now. Now we densified. So isn't that close to the punishment of Adam and Eve. And here we are today. Now, let me clarify that I'm oversimplifying all this because time is limited. I only have 1 hour to do this talk, and this will take hours and hours and hours. I'm oversimplifying things. But if you're interested, you can get this information from the transcript and from my lectures. Now, let me share with you what the collective forces have to say about this experience, and they have given it to me through the transcript that you are about to read. It is our sense of belonging what makes us identify with the source as the maker, the Father, or our Lord. So it is our sense of belonging what is making us identify with the source as such. Another transcript read, God is the epicenter of all that is and exists. And this is my favorite. You are the sum total of all your experiences since you first moved. Again, we were with him, we got separated, and all those experiences, remember the going back to where I was that I couldn't identify with myself? I am the sum total of all those experiences since the first day I moved or the first time I moved up to today. So answering those three questions, I already told you who you are, where you came from, and now as to the purpose of life, that one is given in the first transcript. But in short, I'm going to give you just a brief that we're here because we're learning. And we're learning because we want to go back home. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here today. You will be saying, oh, this is boring. I want to do this and that and participating what and have fun and not going through this. So that is your purpose in life. Go back home. Now, if you want to know more about me, just go to the transcripts. It's right here. You go to the transcript. Once you're in the transcript, you go to the transcript page. Once in the transcript page, which is this one, welcome to the transcript, you're going to scroll down. You're going to go to the table of content, and you're going to read that first transcript. Now you know why I had to go very, very fast from the beginning, because time is running out and I want to answer those questions that you have. Here you're going to see the first transcript and you're going to see the translation, the transcription, exactly how it happened. However, it was done in Spanish, so I had to do some translation myself. And in the transcript page, you're going to see close to 500 transcript. I'm still working on the year 2012, so you have plenty of transcript to go. And now I'm going to ask you to subscribe so you can receive every week, every Sunday morning, you're going to get the latest transcript. For me to help you remember what you never forgot in the first place, but have kept buried deep inside you for so long. And my job is to help you remember who you are, where you came from, and helping you go back home. So I think I'm done now. And I'm going to stop sharing. And now I'm ready to get questions, because I cannot imagine how many questions I might have. So here we go. I'm ready.
Oh, thank you, Francisco. That was a really fascinating presentation. I have lots of questions, but I'm going to start with some that have come from the audience. Your first question today, Francisco, comes from James. And James says, I'm an engineer and science was my training. I believe in the afterlife because the leap of faith is the belief in the soul. The soul is energy and transcends death, and energy cannot be destroyed. It is you in the afterlife. The mystery to me is, what's the journey of the soul? So you have some comments on that, Francisco?
Well, I'm going to give you this answer with a statement that I received when I was in middle school. I come from a Catholic background. I went to Catholic school. And I remember a teacher who I was, I was at that moment studying religion. And she said, God felt lonely and wanted to see himself. Now, I'm gonna be very honest with you. I spent my whole life trying to get where did the teacher came that information from, and I couldn't find it. It's not in Bible. It's not in any mystical book anywhere to be found. So I am doubting now if it was a teacher or it was something that drove me to hear those words as young as in middle school, but it stuck with me for life. So the journey of the soul is basically the wanting to experience life in a different way that originally intended to. It is like, for example, in religion, they say that God created the whole universe, and you ask yourself, to what purpose? Why do we have to be here suffering and going through all these calamities? Why? Why was I created? And that's when you come to understand after listening to my words that it's not that we were created. We always been there. It was us who chose to separate from the source. And here we are now. So as to the purpose, it's like they say, God only knows, because no one was there when that happened, when that original thought took form. But from that original thought until today, look how far we have gone. And that is the purpose that we have. Right now, we can choose. Either we go back home because we're tired of this, we already know what's going on, and we want to go back, or we can limitlessly keep on going, keep experiencing life, keep evolving. But there's going to be one point in your life that you're going to say, I'm done with this, because this is a never ending cycle created by the soul, moved by the spirit, searching for knowledge, wanting to experience everything one more time in this treadmill to nowhere. So, what is the purpose? No one knows, other than wanting to keep experiencing life. And everyone here trying to go back home. That's as far as I can go into answering that question. And I hope I did answer that question.
Awesome. Thank you, Francisco. We have another question here from Dana, and if anyone else has questions, please put them in the chat. Dana would like to know, how has this experience impacted your family and other relationships?
Oh, wow. How did it affect my family? It's incredible what I've gone through. At first, my wife thought that I was going crazy. Hadn't it been because it was the information was given it through my son, I would be the first one that I would have dismissed it. But I know the character of my son, so that's why I'm here today. So my wife, she's now supporting me, but she had a very, very hard time grasping all this. If it were because she saw me going into transcribing, knowing that what I'm writing or recording doesn't come from me because of the depth of the information, uh, she would have divorced me long ago. Uh, as to my family, my son, because he's very reserved, he doesn't want to deal with it because he knows that this is very controversial, as you already know. Uh, one of my daughters do not believe in me. The other one follows me. And I'm living a double life because most of my family don't know what I do. Uh, I've lost friends because I do not uh, follow what I used to do with them. And we used to go having beer, going here, there. I don't do that anymore. Uh, uh, because of what I've learned, I've changed my way of being in many, many ways. I became vegan because of the principle not to kill. And so many other things that have changed my life. I mean, 180. So it had been a difficult path. I've been doing this for more than 10 years, and I'm still struggling because I am learning. As you all, as we are, I'm still learning. The difference is that I get the information and I get it, I grasp it. But one thing is grasping it, and another thing is put it into practice, which I try to do the best I can.
Mhm, mhm. Awesome. Thank you, Francisco. Um, Veronica has a fairly long question for you. She says, amazing journey. My question is about the orbs your son saw. As a teenager, 3 orbs of green light appeared in my room in the middle of the night and told me they were my guides. I never saw them again, although I followed a thread of synchronistic experiences that have led me through life and spiritual growth. But I've always wondered about those balls of light and why I never saw them again. Do you have anything to share about this?
Well, as to seeing orbs, that is a way, that is one of many ways in which uh, entities from the spirit world choose to manifest. It is their choosing, and they do manifest based on your preconceived ideas. For example, if there's someone that is Christian, just to give you an example, Buddha is not going to show up. So, so if you saw orbs, it for a purpose, because somehow that that entity or that spirit wanted to communicate with you or give you reassurance that you are not alone. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are not going to show up or that they will eventually show up. So it is for you to know that they do exist, that you're not alone, and it is in you to ask yourself, what event took place that made me go through this experience? Maybe you were troubled by something, maybe you were doubting something. You have to go back to that moment and try to find out why they manifested. But that manifestation is one of many. It's, for example, at first I told you what I experienced on the other side, but I wasn't allowed to know anything of what transpired later on because I was too young. I wasn't ready. So give it a chance. Maybe you weren't ready. They may have given you the first notice. And if you keep following your spiritual path, you might have communication with it. But don't look for it. Just acknowledge that experience and let it go. I hope that I answer your question.
Thank you, Francisco. Brian has a question for you. He's wondering, did you do any external, like outer worldly training to enhance your natural ability to hear the guidance of the inner voices?
No, no. I'm just doing what I'm doing as I go along with what I have to do. Uh, Many people have asked me, why don't you ask what is it that you're supposed to be doing moving forward or in the future? And I haven't, because I don't want to. I want to do what I have to do as I go, because I know that they're going to keep teaching me. So I am doing my job. For example, if you can recount the my path. First, I had 21 years before I had my first spiritual experience. Then 8 years went by for the next one. And then after 2011 goes to 2011, 2012, 2013. There's an experience in 2015 that I'm still working on that. And I know that I have more to learn. So I chose not to pursue any teachings and learning. And remember what I said in the beginning. I was told from now on, you're not going to learn from outside sources, and moving forward, everything was going to be learned from within. So I'm following instructions.
Excellent, excellent, Francisco. Following instructions.
Exactly.
Julie has a question for you. She said she told us about your son. It seems like he's already quite evolved, question mark, or was it completely a spirit controlling him?
I think it was spirit controlling him. I most certainly believe that, because ever since that day, he just wanted to stay away from this. Maybe he, on his inner feeling, he felt like it was too much for him, and or he wasn't, or he is not ready yet. I don't know. I have I have many questions that they are being unanswered, but I'm okay with that, because all of those questions that I had in 1979 were not answered until 2011. So what's the hurry?
Awesome. I have a saying that spirit tells me on a need to know basis, it will be revealed. And there's so much
Exactly.
information up there on a need to know basis.
Exactly.
We have a couple people who've made comments about having heard you talk by far, and about that they think before, and they think today is by far your most powerful presentation. So thank you very,
Thank
very
you.
much for that. Um,
Thank
I
you.
I have a couple additional questions. Um, I'm curious about when you entered that realm, that where you saw the geometrical figures that were containing knowledge or information, that you said you somehow intuitively your soul understood or recognized or knew without anybody telling you that that's what they were. They were containing information, could be called the Akashic records. Hard to know what to call that. My question is, you described that you knew that if you touched one, that you would absorb a vast amount of information. Did you touch one? And if so, what did you absorb?
No, because remember that I said that I was in a protected bubble. I wasn't meant to mingle with anything, and no one was able to see me. I was just passing by. I know I couldn't. I wanted to, but I couldn't, because I intuitively knew that it was not for me to disturb anything.
Mm,
I was just passing by.
awesome. So you were a spiritual tourist, so to speak. That the spirit was giving you a tour of these realms. That is
And let me clarify that everything, because it is very hard, even to me it's hard for me to explain the fact, and for people to understand that everything was inward. It's not like I've heard so many stories of people being taken to the astral plane out there, where all the suns and planets and all that stuff. This was an inward travel to the very center of our being. So so that's what it was.
Thank you, Francisco. So I think we're going to end the question and answer period here. Thank you, Francisco, for an absolutely excellent and profound presentation. I too feel this is the most spiritually deep and transformative presentation I've heard you give, explaining many things about your revelations on the other side. And I'm very, very thankful for you presenting to us today. Thank you, Francisco.